Good afternoon. Today is the 20th of October, and as promised, it's time to look at some of the questions which you've very kindly left for me. I do apologise about the light levels. I'm in the Tivoli today, and this is just the way that it is. Unfortunately, it is the afternoon, and this is about the best light that I can get. It's just a bit dark in here, unfortunately. I had numerous questions, very exciting ones. Some of them I've actually answered already in the comment section, and if that has happened, I won't necessarily answer that again unless I feel it's relevant. If I get your name wrong, I apologise. If the answer isn't to your liking, then I apologise again. There's not much more I can say about it than that. So yes, without further ado, let's get on with the 13th time I've answered viewer questions on this channel. I'm going to skip right forward to this question from Colin Hicks, one of my regular viewers, who actually has provided 2 cars for no budget reviews. So he says, I've been thinking, the car reviews on this channel seem to concentrate on new or nearly new cars. All the no budget reviews, plus the occasional retro or classic. They're all good viewing. What about the plethora of cars in the £1,000 upwards market? What can you get for £3,000, £5,000 or £10,000? To silence that phone call for a second. What can you get for £3,000, £5,000 or £10,000? What, of course, the burning question would be then, what do you call these reviews? This may be a question for your whole audience. Answers on the back of the electronic medium of your choice. The thing is that I know I've touched upon this before. I didn't really want to talk about this today, but I'm probably going to have to. The channel costs an awful lot of money to run. Only about 10% at most of the cost of running the channel are actually covered by the YouTube ad revenue. My lady wife and I have been discussing this today, and she doesn't really want me to give away details, but if we just look at literally the costs of running the channel for about a month, and say I did sort of 2 episodes of True Jacket reviews on it. We don't normally just do 2, we either just did a 1-off or 3. Then the True Jacket reviews alone will cost something like 8 to 9 times what actually is being brought in currently by the YouTube ad revenue. Now, the other costs, of course, are things like going to no budget reviews locations. They've got things like sometimes I have to pay for my own accommodation, sometimes I have my own accommodation. We've got things like petrol. We've got the additional insurance I have to have for both the cars if I'm going in extra mileage and things. So those do mount up. And if we actually think about my time of actually producing the videos, which I don't factor in at all really, because I have to edit the ones I edit myself, then we're looking at between 5 and 10% of the costs of running the channel is being covered by the YouTube ad revenue that I get. It's much better than I used to get. I used to get nothing at all. I used to get no ad revenue before I had 1,000 subscribers. I had nothing, so it was all just funded out of our own pocket. Problem is that obviously with things going on at the moment, the number of clients I've had has dropped, and then of course my income from the work that I do has dropped. I have other sources of income as well, because I do a couple of other things in addition to sourcing cars for clients, which is actually my job, although a lot of people don't seem to be aware of that. That's why it's called, the channel's called what it is. It's supposed to be advertising for my job, but actually it's a really terrible form of advertising, because it just costs all that money and doesn't really get me many clients. So because I've had fewer clients for various reasons, I was going to source a car for a couple this month, but she lost her job, so I couldn't do it. Other people couldn't afford to pay me to source a car, so I had to stop doing the job. All that sort of thing has happened. So I can't even use the money that I would normally get in from doing jobs for clients, finding cars, to fund the channel at the moment. So we have to fund it from other sources. My wife helps me out and things, but that's not a sustainable business model. So with no budget reviews, obviously we don't have any extra budget. I have a phone I use to film those. We don't even use a separate microphone, which is just one of the things, which is why the audio is so terrible. Then that's okay, but other things do cost a lot of money. I have had just today One of people who's provided a car for channel, I'm not going to tell you who it is because they wish to remain anonymous, that they have also joined. The other chap I have from overseas who has agreed to give a monthly donation towards the cost of running the channel. If you'd like to do that, then I have a PayPal address. It is, I'll spell this for you phonetically: Juliet Oscar Sierra Echo Foxtrot underscore Lima Lima Oscar Yankee Delta at yahoo.de Delta Echo. That is my PayPal address. It's not an address for you to use to get in contact with me. That is japl745@hotmail.com. Like I said, on No Budget Reviews. But if you wish to give via PayPal, then you can. I have no intention of putting all the content via paywall. The intention really more is to give people early access if that's what they want, and possibly to produce a video. If there are enough people who want to see one, then we'll do a special video for it. But at the moment, we're probably going to stop production of Tweed Jacket reviews probably at the end of next month, because I've got a number of them that are already planned, but we will stop production probably indefinitely because they're just too expensive to film, because the revenue that's coming in at the moment just doesn't cover anywhere near. Even if I didn't do Tweed Jacket reviews, it wouldn't cover it. So what we have to do is probably focus on the No Budget Reviews. And to answer Colin's question, it's a very, very roundabout way of answering Colin's question, but we'd have to actually probably call them contingency reviews, as we did with the Jaguar XF Sport Brake that you saw that belonged to IBI, because literally it's a contingency. We haven't got any money to film Tweed Jacket reviews, so we would do them as a contingency reviews, which is very similar to No Budget Reviews because they are cheaper. And actually, if the amount of money I don't get doesn't increase, we'd probably actually have to reduce the number of videos on the channel just to keep the budget down. So yeah, that would probably be what's going on. It is literally just a financial decision. If you have other names you'd like for somewhere in the middle of Tweed Jacket Reviews and No Budget Reviews, I'm very happy to have them. But I think I just want to get this out of the way first. And you know, if you see JM on Cars channel, Car Obsession, Furious Driving, all of them, they will tell you much the same thing. YouTube Avenue goes up and down all the time, and you can't rely upon it. You just can't. And it doesn't really bring in as much as you'd imagine it does as either. You've got to work pretty hard for it, and you know, I think you'll agree with the output that we are having at the moment, that we are working as hard as we can. But anyway, that's enough about that. Let's move on to something else. Matty from Matty's Cars asks, why is it that you love modern MGs so much? Having driven a new ZS recently, I find it to be adequate in most respects, if a little generic. It doesn't live up to the original thrill that MGs have old had. I was wondering what draws you to modern MG products. First of all, we used to have one. We had a 2014 MG3 1.5 style for 3 years. We only sold it in February this year. That was a fantastic car. In some ways, I wish we still had it, really. That is a tremendous value for money car. In fact, all post-2011 MGs have been very good value for money. Probably less so the MG6, because that only came with a 3-year warranty, as did the MG3, up until quite recently, would be approximately 2016, 17, I think they went to a 5-year warranty. I can't remember exactly. But now, any MG you buy, 7-year warranty, 80,000 miles. The cars are very affordable. They're much cheaper than most brands out there, probably with the exception of Dacia and sometimes SsangYong, depending on the way you look at it. And they're very good cars. They don't, possibly apart from the MG3, handle quite as well as the older MGs used to handle, like, you know, the ZS and the 180 and the ZR, but they're very, very good cars. And market at the moment, it really demands mostly that cars are sort of fit for purpose in modern motoring, and most people who buy cars don't need you know, really kind of amazing chassis dynamics and you know, really powerful engines. They're after value for money and ease of use, and modern features like Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, things like that. And actually, MG delivers on that. It's a very good range of cars, and you know, they much seem a bit generic, but For an equivalent car from another brand, say, I don't know, Vauxhall or Skoda, you're paying an awful lot more money for essentially what is the same thing. You're getting a worse after-sales package. So, yeah, I mean, that's why I like them. The MG3 still has that sort of that little buzzy character that, say, a ZR used to have. So I hope they bring out some more sporty models. At the moment, they're more comfort orientated and everything like that. And we will be featuring some more of the more modern MGs on the channel. Hopefully, next month we're planning on doing that. Yes, that's the reason why I like them so much. That's why you see a lot of them on the channel. Jonathan Bramble says, been watching for a few weeks. Great content. It fits within Furious Driving and Hubnut, which it probably does actually, because I'm a big fan of Mr. Richardson and then Mr. Seabrook. I own a Suzuki Baleno GSR. Have you ever driven one? Well, no, I haven't actually. I'd love to actually drive one, but unfortunately, I can't at the moment. I'll just let me take a pause here a second. I'm so sorry, viewers. I'm recording today at my mother's house, and she unexpectedly came back early, so I have had to just delay her for a little bit, and we will carry on what we're saying. Yes, I'd love to do a Baleno on No Budget Reviews, particularly a GSR, if that's something that you'd like to offer. Then of course it's the usual email address, japl745@hotmail.com. And yes, I will keep up with the Shambolic Shuffles if I can, although yes, we'll have to do some of those next year, I think, because all the shows have now finished. Grigor Ivanov says, I've just found out about this channel and I'm loving the No Budget Reviews. I'm binge watching that right now. You did say you studied the French language for some time, and right now you're an independent vehicle consultant. Both those things are true. How did you become an independent vehicle consultant? Did you have a job that needed automotive speciality before, like a seller or advisor or buyer for a company? Is it something you want to do since you went to high school? Did you study a completely different type of thing at university? Well, I did study a completely different type of thing at university, and I think the best thing for anyone to do if they want to know about this stuff is to watch a video which I made. It's got quite a long title, but it's called "How Did I Start My Vehicle Sourcing Job and What Cars Have I Found?" Because I could talk all about it again, but it really, because I've already done a video on it, it's best to just take a look at that, and that will go into this subject in more detail. David H says, what discontinued make and model of car from the last 10 years would you like to see return? Now, this is an interesting question, because we could either say, what car from a brand that no longer is sold in this country would you like to see, or what car that doesn't exist anymore from a brand still sold here would you like to see? If it's just a car that doesn't exist anymore from a brand, I think the Suzuki Kizashi is something I'd like to see. It was only sold here for, I think, about a year. Four-wheel drive, a 2.4 litre turbo CVT saloon. I don't know exactly what market niche Suzuki were going for with that, but I want to drive a Suzuki Kizashi, and I'd like to see if we continue to make that. That sounds absolutely fantastic. In terms of what brand that is no longer sold over here, yeah, the second generation Saab 9.5. Probably a lot of petrol heads are in the same kind of position as I am, and they'd like to see Saab come back. And the Saab 9.5, I think the second one was quite a nice car. It didn't save the company, but there we go. Question from Mr. Andy G. Simply, what was the first vehicle you ever travelled in? I think that's a pretty good question, actually, and nobody's ever asked me that before. First vehicle I ever travelled in, I'm a twin, actually. My sister and I were born 7 minutes apart, and my mother told me many years ago that the first vehicle we ever travelled in was a 1980 Volkswagen Polo Mark I facelift. I think, yeah, there was only one body style. It was a sort of coupe type body style, and pretty much instantaneously, because they just had twins, and my sister and I were, oh my gosh, an awful number of weeks premature. I think it was 7 weeks. They hadn't been planning on buying a new car, but pretty much immediately after that, my maternal grandfather and my father went straight down to the Volkswagen dealership. I think they went to the one in it's not there anymore. It's a Volkswagen van dealership now. I think it's called Testwood Motors. It's near Southampton, and they picked up a brand new 1983 Volkswagen Jetta. Because it was a lot bigger, because they went from a family of 3 to a family of 5 instantaneously when my sister and I were born. So yeah, that was the one that I came home with, and we had the Jetta until January 1990, when it was replaced with a Volvo 240. Next question from Absolutely. If someone is in the market to buy an older second-hand car in the sub £3,000 bracket, is there a brand you might say, if you get an XXX, you're less likely to end up with a lemon? In other words, are there safe or go-to brands in the area? Or conversely, do you think the brand doesn't matter, it's all about condition and service history? There are certain cars that absolutely you must avoid. The ones I always sort of mention a lot of the time, we're talking sort of post kind of 2000 now, Renault, Peugeot, Citroen, Fiat. If you're going to get one of those which is still within a warranty, I think Renault have a 5-year warranty actually at the moment, then maybe it's not such a bad idea, but those are the ones I tend to avoid recommending to clients. In terms of anything else, the car that I recommend most to clients is actually a Kia Ceed, would you believe? I've sourced a number of those, and one's well within this budget, and it's a typical budget I tend to work with, and they've been very good. Obviously, you can buy a really knackered Kia Ceed and it can be terrible, or you can sometimes buy, say, a Citroen C4 of that price bracket. It could be great. Sometimes the way it's been serviced is more important than what it is, but it just depends on an individual basis. And often clients will say to me, I want to buy this, I want to buy that. I said, well, no, we'll look around and we'll see what the best one in the area is, because sometimes you have to sacrifice maybe what the best actual car is. If there's something that's better cared for, in a better condition, but it'll last better, but is maybe one you hadn't considered previously, but obviously steering clear of the ones that I've already said. Jonathan Meeson says, what's your thoughts on the MG ZS 180? Well, we're actually filming an MG ZS 180 review this week, so once that's up, that'll be an episode of True Jacket Reviews, then I'll let you know. The Car Archives says, what was the worst mainstream car you're told your customer not to buy? It's actually happened twice with the same car, and this is one of the reasons why one of the first videos we did in True Jacket Reviews, which was like February, March 2019, was the Peugeot 207. I remember once actually having a client who needed a new car. Her 206 had been written off. She needed a new car really quickly, and we did look at the 207, and it was in very, very good condition for one of them. It was about 16,000 miles from new or something. Very, very, very low mileage car. And she said, I don't like this, it's boring. And I said, yeah, they're not great, are they? And so, we left that one, and she bought a Seat instead. I also had a lady who had been recommended by someone else to buy a 207, and sort of watched my video and asked me afterwards, should I buy one? I was like, well, did you not watch the video? Have you not watched it? That was the first video that Mr. Franks and I really put a lot of effort into making it as funny as we possibly could, because they're dreadful cars for 207s. In all seriousness, they are terrible. There's so many other cars you can choose in that market segment that are better, and I've had to spell it out to people twice. Don't buy them. Obviously the City Rover's worse, but they're not great. Nick 2203 asks, obviously you have the Road 45, that's true, sir. With that in mind, whichever BL Austin Rover or Rover Group car would you most like to own? It could be anything through the 70s through to the very last Rover Group cars. Probably a Montego, probably a Saloon. I think either a Vandenpla, a Mayfair, or a GSI. I like the post facelift cars, but they weren't available as a Mayfair or a Vandenpla, and I've got a Mayfair at some point coming up. If the car's in a restricted area of the country, so I can't get to it at the moment. But after the Maestro video that I did, I really, really, really want to drive a Montego, and that's coming up. And I think at the moment, that would be my choice. I look forward to bringing you the review of that when I'm able to do so. Richard Howlett asks this question. It's a very good one, actually. Looking at the What Car listings, I notice the Jaguar offers 56 versions of the E-Pace, Land Rover 60 of its Range Rover Evoque, even Maserati offer 19 varieties of the Ghibli. Obviously not a big seller, no, that's definitely not a big seller. I can tell you from the figures that I see every month. Do you have any figures for these variants? Must be nil in some cases. Is it worth offering so many versions that are nearly the same? Why not 3 engines and 1 triple of option packs? Now, the reason why option packs have fallen out of favour recently is because every single car that is sold in Europe has to go through WLTP testing. I don't just mean, you know, the SsangYong Tivoli and the SsangYong Rexton. I mean every version of it. So the SsangYong Tivoli 1.2 ELX, the SsangYong Tivoli 1.2 Ventura, etc. And if the car's got any options which affect the economy, it'll have to go through as well. This is why Audi with the S4 actually now don't offer options on it. Instead, they have series of trim levels on it. And it's literally because these cars have gone through like this, and they're getting rid of the options for them. So you have a bizarre number of trim levels in some particular manufacturers, such as Range Rover would be, Land Rover would be the one here because I've got the most. It's literally because these cars have been tested and they can be sold, rather than having to have individual options go through the same testing cycle, which costs an awful lot of money and delays everything. So it sounds really, really silly, but some of them obviously are quite small ones that have been sold. You can have a look on howmanyleft.co.uk and see with these more modern ones sort of post 2018 whether there are actually any on the road, and see if there are any small numbers of them. But yes, I'll leave that to you to do. I won't do that myself. I'll be forever if I do that. But that is the way that you can find out. And yes, this is why MG, for example, only have 2 trim levels for every single car they sell, because it's so much easier. And of course, they don't need to spend time doing that. They can get the cars out more quickly. So, you know, that's another reason why perhaps I think it's good. The SsangYong maximum of 4. And I don't think there are any options other than dealer fit ones. So there you go. Alan Simpson asks, if you could go back in time to one automotive decade and buy a brand new car, which would you pick and why? I'm going to say the 60s, and I'm going to say I'd go and buy a Lancia Fulvia. I love Lancia Fulvias. There's one in Department S, it's one of my favourite television shows. And the 60s was such a rich variety of stuff, being a load of technical innovation like the Jaguar E-Type, the Mini, Hillman Imp, you know, the facelifted Citroen DS, just so much innovation at the time, and some beautiful cars. And some of my favourite television shows were made in that decade, and you see the cars in them all the time, which is why I've made over 50 episodes of Cars and Television, the film, if you want to have a look at those, which were made during the first lockdown, most of those. Yes, I think that's a fairly simple question, actually, really. And now we come to what is my favourite type of question that I receive for these videos. It's always the same person. It's Trabelli, and I love answering these questions. They are hilariously funny. 1985, new year, new Bond. Whilst filming a 1980s style shambolic shuffle at the NEC Motor Show in Birmingham on a VHS video recorder, had to be a JVC one, just like Back to the Future, and while filming near the Renault Standard and arrived in New 21, which was due for release in 6 months, as always getting the trim level wrong, it was a GTS, not GTX. You get an urgent message to call headquarters. Bad news. Rover, which was due to have the 800XX, not the R17 as it says, but the XX, because the R17 was the 91 facelift, at the NEC if a lorry stolen, which contained the launch press car by a criminal gang working for PSA. Oh dear, dear me, Peugeot and Citroen together. Oh dear. The lorry is heading up the M6 and blasting past every roadblock the police have set up. You, Mr. Lloyd, can stop that lorry with a specialist manoeuvre which requires shooting at the tyres whilst driving. But in order to do this, you need a convertible car. So which cabriolet of car of the time would you choose? Well, it's got to be the brand new 1985 Jaguar XJS Targa, which was released that year. So, yes, and you know, being a big fan of Return of the Saint, we have to have it done properly. So, yes, I'm sure Ian Ogilvy would be happy to come along with me and shoot those tyres out. But after a brief shootout with the criminals, you take them out. Their car is nowhere to be seen, and suddenly on the opposite side of the motorway you see a white 827 Sterling shoot past you at 130 miles per hour. Orders have been given to destroy the car as your cabriolet is destroyed, but you can only chase it with the car, but its competition was released in 85. Well, it's got to be the brand new 1985 Ford Granada Mark III Scorpio, as seen in the first series of Cat's Eyes, an episode called Frightmare. That's got a 2.9 litre Cologne V6 engine and rear-wheel drive, and I'm hoping that I'll be having one of Mr. Coleman's tuned banger racing engines in that, or rather one that his father might have tuned, because he was around modifying things at the time. So yes, we'd have to hope that that would be the case, and we'd catch up with those pesky criminals and stop their non-patriotic escape to France. So there we are, viewers. We actually managed to keep it to under half an hour this time with the questions. Thank you ever so much indeed once again for watching. As I said, if you do wish to contribute financially towards the channel, then my PayPal address is josef_Lloyd@yahoo.de. That's PayPal only, don't use that for general inquiries. But if you do wish to submit a car for no budget reviews or to ask anything else, then you can get in touch with me at japl745@hotmail.com. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Please don't forget to like this video and to leave a comment below. I'm sorry we went on quite a long time beginning to do with the financial ins and outs of things, but I might as well say that now and not have to make a separate video about it, as opposed to doing it later. Yes, obviously got Facebook, facebook.com/Lloyd Vehicle Consulting, and also Instagram.com/Lloyd_Vehicle_Consulting. Thank you.